Hey guys, welcome back to another episode on how to hack. So today we're here at Recon-ng, and this is a reconnaissance framework tool that can help us find out more information about a company or about an individual and looking for a lot of details about what kind of systems, services that they're running so that we can get those information, alright, before we launch an actual exploitation, before we try to look up, right, what are the CVE, common vulnerability exposure, details associated with those services. So Recon-ng help us speed up the process of performing reconnaissance or information gathering. And what it does, right, is it utilizes multiple tools to help us consolidate and aggregate those findings. So what I can do here is I have Recon-ng, alright, and we can look at the information. So it's a full-featured reconnaissance framework, very similar to what we have used in our Metasploit framework in terms of how the interface looks like, how we can issue instructions into the framework to perform our reconnaissance. So what we can do is we can go ahead and open up terminal. Alright, so I can open up terminal here and I can enter sudo recon-ng, alright, to run as super user, and I can enter the password to my login. Alright, and this would begin Recon-ng. So what we have here, right, we can see immediately, alright, all those information. So I've installed pretty much all the modules. So by default, right, Recon-ng comes alongside with Kali Linux. And of course, we have a lot of API required to run certain kind of check. For example, open source intelligence for Shodan, GitHub, and many of these other APIs are needed to utilize those open source intelligence platforms to help us do those searching and crawling across the list. All right, that's also pawn list, all right, and many others. So what we can do is we can take a look at some of the modules that we may not have an API for it. So all you got to do is enter help, and this would actually show us all of those different instructions that we can key in. All right, so we have dashboard, we have the workspaces database, we have the index, the marketplace, where they will list out all those modules, and you can select whether you want to choose to install them or not. All right, so what we can do here is we can enter marketplace, okay, and then we can do a double tap to see all the instructions that we can look out for, and then we can enter search, and I can hit enter on this, and this will show us all the modules that we can access from marketplace. So unlike the earlier version of Recon-ng where all the modules are installed by default, which can possibly take up a lot of space, what we have here is Recon-ng and all the modules, and we can see, for example, here by scrolling up the table, the path, all right, the path, the version, the status, and the updated. All right, and of course right here we can look at the different kind of subcategories: discovery, exploitation, import, reconnaissance, like companies contacts using Bing, LinkedIn cache. All right, we have domains information as well. All right, we have Shodan organization using Shodan to do the reconnaissance for us. We have contacts, okay, and we have credentials, domains companies that we can find out more information. And we have domains host, all right, using search engines again, helping us find out more information about all the domains inside that particular domain name or web server, okay? So again, we can look up all these different details here. We can even look for location, ports, looking at virus total, all right? So we're utilizing a lot of all these platforms within Recon-ng to help us speed up and accelerate the whole cycle of information gathering. Alright, so moving on, what we can do is we can utilize certain modules. So all I got to do is enter the following modules. Alright, now we can double tap on it, and we can see that we can load very specific modules. I'm going to zoom in a little more so it's easier for you to see. I can enter load. Alright, now we can look at all the modules that we've installed. Okay, so we have credentials, we have many different modules that we can utilize. So we can look at, alright, one of those modules, which is the HackerTarget, that we can utilize. So this is one of the more popular modules that we can utilize as part of information gathering. Okay, there's also many others that you can try it out. All right, so obviously we will not have time to go through all of the modules here, so it's important for you to practice all this different framework. And you can also do a manual approach, meaning you go to, say, bing.com and you try to search those results yourself using specific search operators. All right, or you can look at, say, Shodan, all right, create an account there, create an API, make the API available to your Recon-ng, integrate them, and then you can utilize the modules directly from Recon-ng itself. Okay, so what we can do next is to use the HackerTarget module to actually help us specify a domain, and then we can try to look up more information regarding that particular domain, all right, or the particular company. Okay, so here what we're going to do is to look into, all right, the following. So we can just enter modules load, and then we can try to enter recon followed by /domains -host /HackerTarget, hit enter on this. All right, and what we can do next is to enter info, all right, to look at the information regarding this module, all right, and the source. That means we have to set forward the domain name. So I can enter set options, set source, and then followed by the domain name. In this case, loyliangyang.com. All right. So once we have specified that, you can enter run, hit enter on this. Okay, and it'll begin checking more information regarding the domain. So in this case, we found a number of services which has the subdomain information. So in this case, we have WebDisk, cPanel, Webmail, Cloudflare, Resolve2, Auto Discover, all right, CP Calendar, CP Contacts. And again, if you look at the IP address, it's all being hosted, all right, from one particular web server or server, and that server has multiple subdomains which could be used for many different kind of services. So this very quickly help us identify those subdomain information. All right. So once again, I hope you try out all the different modules within Recon-ng. So this is an introductory so that you can get started and try out all the different advanced modules so that you can learn more about cybersecurity. So once again, I hope you've learned something valuable in today's session. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll try my best to answer any of your questions. And remember, like, share, and subscribe to the channel so that you can be kept abreast of the latest cybersecurity tutorial. Thank you so much once again for watching.